Hey there! Thanks for stopping by. Let's dive into something amazing together. Welcome to Next Gen EduBuddies. Don't forget to hit those buttons below to stay connected. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's keep exploring together.
Newton's laws of motion are fundamental principles explaining object movement. These laws apply universally, from skateboarders to cars. Newton's laws govern all forms of motion observed. These laws provide a framework for understanding and predicting how objects respond to forces. Newton's first law, the law of inertia, states that an object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an external force. An object will not move on its own without an outside influence. Inertia is the tendency of an object to resist changes in its state of motion. External forces are required to overcome inertia and initiate movement. Without an external force, an object's state of rest will persist indefinitely. An object in motion will stay in motion with the same speed and direction unless acted upon by an external force. Objects resist changes in their state of motion. This resistance to changes in motion is known as inertia. External forces are required to alter an object's velocity. The greater the mass of an object, the greater its resistance to change in motion. Inertia is a fundamental property of matter. An object at rest remains at rest unless acted upon by an external force. A soccer ball will not move until a force, such as a kick, is applied to it. Once in motion, the soccer ball continues to roll due to inertia. Friction from the ground and air resistance act as opposing forces, gradually slowing the ball's motion. The ball stops moving when the opposing forces balance out or an external force, like a player's foot, halts it. Newton's second law describes the relationship between force, mass, and acceleration. The formula for Newton's second law is expressed as F equals ma. The force needed to accelerate an object is directly proportional to its mass. A greater force is required to accelerate an object with a larger mass. Newton's second law states that the force required to accelerate an object is directly proportional to its mass. Objects with greater mass require more force to achieve the same acceleration. Pushing an empty shopping cart requires less force than pushing a fully loaded one to achieve the same acceleration. Mass is a measure of an object's resistance to acceleration. The relationship between force, mass, and acceleration is linear. Doubling the mass doubles the force required for the same acceleration. Inertia, the tendency of an object to resist changes in its state of motion, is directly related to mass. Newton's second law of motion is mathematically expressed as FRMA, where F represents force, M represents mass, and A represents acceleration. The equation FMA indicates that force is directly proportional to mass when acceleration is held constant. Doubling the mass of an object requires doubling the applied force to maintain the same acceleration. This principle explains how different forces affect objects with varying masses. Understanding FMA is crucial for predicting an object's motion under the influence of a force. Applications of FMA range from calculating rocket thrust to designing safer vehicles. Newton's third law describes that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Jumping off a boat demonstrates Newton's third law in action. The person exerts a force on the boat when jumping. The boat exerts an equal and opposite force back on the person. This reciprocal force causes the boat to move backward as the person moves forward. A rocket launch exemplifies Newton's third law of motion. The rocket expels hot gases downwards, creating an action force. The expelled gases exert an equal and opposite reaction force upwards on the rocket. This upward reaction force propels the rocket into the sky. The action and reaction forces are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. Newton's third law is fundamental to rocket propulsion. Action and reaction forces always occur in pairs. These forces act on different objects. Action and reaction forces are equal in magnitude. Action and reaction forces are opposite in direction. These forces explain many movements we observe. Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Newton's laws of motion are applied in vehicle design to enhance safety. Understanding inertia allows engineers to design systems that mitigate the effects of sudden stops. Force analysis is crucial for designing structural components that can withstand collision impacts. Newton's third law, the principle of action and reaction, informs the design of energy-absorbing systems. Passenger safety systems, such as airbags and seatbelts, are designed based on principles of inertia and force. By applying Newton's laws, engineers create safer vehicles that protect passengers during collisions. Athletes apply Newton's laws of motion to enhance their sports performance. Understanding force and motion allows athletes to optimize their techniques. By applying Newton's laws, runners can increase their speed. Jumpers can achieve greater height by maximizing their vertical force. Throwers can increase the distance of their throws by optimizing force and angle. Optimized techniques based on Newton's laws lead to improved athletic outcomes. Amusement park rides utilize Newton's laws of motion to create thrilling experiences. Newton's first law, inertia, explains why riders feel pushed to the side during sharp turns. Newton's second law, FIMA, governs the acceleration and deceleration of the ride. Newton's third law, action-reaction, is evident in the forces between the ride and its support structures. Engineers manipulate forces to maximize thrill while adhering to strict safety standards. Careful calculation of centripetal force ensures riders remain safely within the ride during loops and turns. Newton's laws of motion govern the behavior of a bouncing ball. Gravity exerts a downward force on the ball, causing it to accelerate towards the ground. Upon impact, the ground exerts an equal and opposite force upwards on the ball. This upward force propels the ball back into the air, resulting in a bounce. The bouncing motion continues until energy is dissipated due to factors like air resistance and imperfect elasticity. The motion of vehicles is governed by Newton's laws of motion. The engine provides force to accelerate the vehicle. Friction opposes the motion of the vehicle. Air resistance also opposes the motion of the vehicle, influencing speed and fuel efficiency. Newton's laws of motion govern every move. Understanding these principles helps make sense of the world. Newton's first law: an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion with the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by a force. Newton's second law: force equals mass times acceleration, FVMA. Newton's third law: for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Physics in action allows us to appreciate the underlying order of the universe.
Don't forget to click subscribe and join the family. There's so much more coming your way. Subscribe now and never miss out on the fun.